everyone, and welcome to today's KMS webinar session. This is Ravi Madliar from Ekatva, and today's topic is GST refund under inverted duty structure. It is my pleasure to introduce CA Komal Agrawal, a distinguished chartered accountant and member of who qualified in. She currently holds a managerial position at Kandar Mehta and Shah and brings with her over 9 years of extensive experience in the field of indirect taxation, encompassing both her articleship and professional practices. Her core expertise lies in service tax and GST, where she has developed a strong command over compliance, advisory, litigation, refund matters, and representation before GST authorities. During her articleship, she was honored as the Best Article Student of the Year, reflecting her dedication and professional excellence. She is also widely appreciated for her mentoring abilities, having guided numerous professionals and manages a diverse client portfolio across sectors including agriculture, chemicals, automobiles, construction, advertising, IT, and FMCG. In today's session, she will be sharing valuable practical insights on the inverted duty structure under GST with a particular focus on refund mechanism, litigation challenges, and key industry perspectives. Please join me in welcoming CA Komal Agrawal. Over to you, Komal.
Yes, thank you so much, Ravi, for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, before move into the legal provisions and technical aspect of the topic, it is important to appreciate that inverted duty structure has always been very complex area under GST. Over a period of time, government has had to amend the relevant provisions, revise the refund formula, and restrict the scope of inputs eligible for refund, which itself reflect the practical and interpretational challenges involved in the subject matter. Although the concept of inverted duty structure may appear limited at first glance, in practice, it has very significant impact on the businesses, especially in the terms of working capital management, refund claim pricing decisions, and GST compliance. It is important that it lies not only in the quantum of the accumulated ITC, but also in fact that it directly affect the cash flow of the business, requires the careful interpretation of the Act, rules, notification, circulars, and judicial precedents. The complexity further increases because the refund mechanism has undergone several changes over the time. Issues such as exclusion of input services, treatment of capital goods, classification of supply, formula-based restriction, documentation requirement, and evolving legal positions makes this topic highly technical and compliance sensitive. Therefore, understanding inverted duty structure is essential not only from the refund perspective, but also from the advisory, litigation, risk management perspective. In today's session, we will try to simplify this complex topic and discuss in the structured and practical manner. So let me just first share my screen. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's up.
Okay. So, good evening, everybody. This is the index that are containing all of the topics that we will discuss in this presentation. That is having introduction of IDS refund, goods versus service industry, key notification and circular issued till date, refund formula, how to calculate the maximum refunds, what are the definitions, and certain clarification that is being issued by CBIC. IDS versus export of with payment of tax, how to reconcile GST at 2A versus 2B with the ITC of books of accounts, documentation, timeline, and interest calculation, recredit, withdrawal of the refund, and there are certain restricted categories under which you cannot claim refund of IDS. Litigation, court rulings, industry analysis, and recent updates, open issues, and poses related to the topic. So first of all, we will understand what is the concept of IDS. Basically, the right that is being given in the CGST Act, where taxpayer can claim the refund of IDS, that is section 54(3) clause 2. So basically, this section gives the right to the taxpayer, which says that inverted duty structure will be applicable when the rate of input is higher than the rate of output supply. Over here, there are two terminology, that is input and output supply. While talking about input, we all know that there are three terms in GST: input, input service, and capital goods. So over here, the term used is specifically input, means your input rate must be higher than what rate is applicable on your output supply. Output supply meaning thereby it can be goods as well as services. So if you are having output supply of goods or service, and to supply that you are having the input rate which is higher than the output supply rate, then IDS structure will be applicable. So basically, what is the problem in the IDS? Input tax credit accumulates, but it cannot be utilized. So basically, you get eligible for the refund. It creates a working capital blockage for the manufacturer. Section 54(3)(2) provides the refund remedy. What are the eligible criteria? That is, registered person has to be there. There has to be accumulated ITC with the taxpayer. GST rate must be on input must be more than the GST rate applicable on the output supply. Output supply should not be nil rated or exempt supply. As we all know that if your output supply is nil rated or exempt supply, you are not eligible to claim the credit. So basically, there would be no question of the IDS refund. Most important, whatever product you are supplying, that product should not be classified into the restricted category goods. So that is being given under notification 5/17, which was amended time by time. Over here, what is more important is that, as we all know, after 56 GST Council meeting, notification 9 was issued by CBIC. As per that notification, right now we are having only two tax brackets, that is 5% and 18%. There are certain goods which are classified into 40% tax rate. However, right now we are not discussing about that rate. We are totally taking the rate of 5% and 18%. So as you all know that before 56 GST Council meeting, there were certain rates like 18%, 12%, 5%, 28%. So IDS was applicable in many of the scenario, as you can see right side of the slide, that if your input is 18%, 12% or 5%, you are supplying output at the rate of 5%, then IDS is applicable. Likewise, in other scenario, if your output is 5% or maybe like 12% and input is getting at 18%, then IDS will be applicable. However, after 56 GST Council meeting, such scenario has been changed, where you will be having the input of 18% only and your output rate is 5%. Then you can claim the IDS refund. Over here, one important thing is that when you are having the output rate at 5%, but specific condition that is being given by CBIC is that you cannot claim the credit. In that case, you are not eligible for refund because you are basically not taking the credit. So question of refund does not arise. Next, what is the last date to claim refund? So basically, this provision is given under section 54 subsection 1, which says that the refund relevant date would be 2 years from the relevant date. That is, what is the relevant date? Then due date for furnishing of the return under section 39 for the period in which the claim of refund arises. So basically, section 39 talks about GSTR 3B. So GSTR 3B due date would be considered as the relevant date. So from that date, you need to calculate the 2 years period. That would be the last date to claim the refund. However, over here, one exception is that you must be knowing that during the Corona period, there was one exception given by the CBIC, which excludes almost a period of 2 years from the computation of the limitation period. So basically over here, you can see 4 type of examples, which says that whether refund would be eligible or not as on the basis of the 2 years criteria. As you all know that when we file refund under RFD 01, there are possibility that you don't get the refund acknowledged, rather than you get the RFD 03, that is rejection of the refund, or rather there are some deficiency and your refund got rejected. So basically this provision says that when you're calculating your relevant date, the date from the application of RFD 01 to RFD 03, that period should be excluded from the computation of the relevant period. Bunching of refund across the financial year. So as you all must be aware that earlier there was no provision regarding the bunching of the refund across the financial year. For example, if your refund period is March or April, then you need to calculate your refund for separate months. However, as per Circular 135, that provision has been changed, or they have given the clarification that now you can claim the refund by bunching the different tax periods. recent update that is being introduced in 56 GST Council meeting. In 56 GST Council meeting, it was discussed that, as you must be aware, that 90% provisional refund provision was not there earlier. However, in right now situation, the government wants to give 90% refund to taxpayers based on the determination of the risky taxpayers. So basically what will happen, while scrutinizing the refund by departmental officer, the officer will check whether your refund is risky or not. So based on the risk categories, your refund will get eligible, or either you will get the provisional refund or 100% refund through RFD 06. So yes, refund application filed for inverted duty structure, identification and evaluation of the risk by the system. Does application seems risk-free? Yes. Does proper officer find application risk-free? Yes. Then it will grant the 90% provisional refund within 7 days. And if your application is not risk-free, then there would be some exceptional cases and they will not grant the provisional refund. However, it must be noted that this was discussed in the 56 GST Council meeting. However, it is not yet notified to give provisional refund at 90%. So in practical scenario, in most of the cases, we see that we get the IDS refund in case of goods industry. However, in service industry, there are very limited scenario where we have seen actual practical cases where we actually apply for the IDS refund. Why does that happen? The rate parity barrier pre versus post GST 2.8. Mathematically, an IDS only exists when the tax rate on the input is higher than the tax rate on the output supply. So basically in service sector, the movement of tax slab has historically moved towards a standardized 18%. So basically CBIC has always like categorized many of the services into a standard rate of 18%. And making this gap disappear means generally your input would be at the 18% and your service rate is also at 18% for the output. So there would be no gap between the input and output rate. Pre-rationalization era, that is 4-tier era. Most services in India are taxed at the standard rate of 18%, since very few input are taxed at higher than 18%, that is 28%. It is mathematically difficult for the service provider to even enter the inverted structure unless their specific service is taxed at the concessional rate, that is 5% or 12%. Technical inversion existed, 18% input is more than 12% output. The refund was often swallowed by the formula because the provider's biggest expenses, as you are aware, that IDS is not eligible in case of the input service category refund. So basically we cannot claim the refund of input services under IDS. So in any service industry, there would be major expenses related to the rent, professional fees or manpower. However, we don't get the refund of all of these expenditures. Post 56 GST Council meeting, that is simple tax era. By rationalizing the 4-tier structure into primary 2-tier structure, that is 5% and 18% after 56 GST Council meeting, it almost entirely designed out the possibility of the IDS for the services. Output service is now 18% and input goods are 18%. Mathematical requirement for IDS is basically 0. Another perspective is that refund is not eligible for the input services. Then inversion is specific to the input, as we are getting the refund of input in the IDS. Specifically for the construction industry, 54(3)(2) of the CGST Act establishes the general right to a refund where the rate on input exceed rate applicable on the output supply. However, it simultaneously empowers the government to notify specific exceptions. Means government has certain powers where they can restrict certain category of services where they don't want to give the refund. Exercising this power, the government issued above notification, which explicitly bars the IDS refund for construction services. So basically, notification 15 tells about the restriction which is being imposed on the builders. They cannot claim IDS refund under construction. Why IDS is not possible in the construction industry? So basically, there are certain parameters where generally it does not happen that we get the refund under construction industry. The land value neutralizer. While builder only get a 1/3 dimming fiction for the deduction of the land. In reality, land costs are often much higher. This difference, which carries zero ITC but is still collected from the customer as output tax, it acts as a vacuum that absorbs any surplus credit. So basically what happens in GST law, for the land calculation, we get the dimming fiction, that is 1/3. However, in practical scenario, generally the cost of the land is higher. So basically, whatever input that a builder gets, the proportion is very less in comparison to the output tax that is being paid by the builder. No profit margin buffer. Construction is a high value addition industry. Developers' profit significantly increases the final selling price. 12% tax collected on this entire value almost always outweigh the tax paid on the smaller base of material input. In case of the commercial projects where the effective rate of tax is 12%, so in that case also there can be a marginal refund. However, the quantum of input will be very less as the output rate is higher. The post 2019 residential scheme, as we all know that after 2019, in case of the new projects, there are effective rate of 1% and 5%, in which the condition is that we cannot claim the ITC. So basically, whenever we are not claiming ITC, question of refund does not arise. The post BU ITC cleanup. Finally, when the building is completed and it receives the BU certificate, the unsold unit becomes exempt from GST. Then forces the developer to reverse any surplus credit, performing a cleanup that leaves nothing to refund. When government issued this notification number 15, there was some ambiguity which says that whether IDS refund will be applicable in case of works contract service or not. So to clarify that, notification number 15 was issued, which specifically said that the above restriction is applicable only to the construction industry and it is not applicable to the works contract industry. It says that refund is restricted only to the construction service that is being given in Schedule 2. So construction of a complex building or part thereof intended for sale to buyer, wholly or partly, where the amount charged from the recipient of service includes the value of land or undivided share of land, as the case may be, except where the entire consideration has been received after issuance of completion certificate. So basically, it restricts the refund to only construction industry and not the works contract service. Moving forward, this is the entire list of the notification and circulars that is given by the CBIC that we will understand one by one in next coming slides. Moving forward, there is a refund formula which is being prescribed in Rule 89.5 of CGST rule. First of all, it is very important to understand that government has significantly changed the refund formula time by time. With effect from 1/7/2017, at the time of introduction of GST, the formula was net ITC into turnover of inverted rated supply of goods divided by adjusted total turnover minus tax payable on such inverted rated supply of goods. However, with effect from 18/4/2018, there was some notification 21/18, in which what government did, they actually wanted to accommodate the formula with the 54.3 clause 2. 54.3 clause 2 talks about the outward supply, which includes goods and services. So basically, Act provides that if there is outward supply of goods and service, then you are eligible for the refund if input rate is higher. So basically, that provision was not getting accommodated in the earlier formula. So they gave the amendment in the formula and included the turnover of inverted rated supply of goods as well as services. Likewise, you need to deduct the tax payable, which is applicable on the goods as well as services. However, again, new notification was issued, that was 14/2022 on 5/7/2022, where what government actually did, they just changed the formula by comparing the input ITC in comparison to the input and input service ITC, like what proportion we are actually paying against the outward supply of inverted rated goods or services. So over here, they added that is tax payable on such inverted rated supply of goods or service in proportion to the net ITC divided by ITC availed on input and input services. With the practical example, we will understand in the next slide. So in this illustrative example, we are having different type of figures like net ITC on the input, net ITC on input service, inverted turnovers, adjusted turnover, and what is the tax paid on such turnover. So basically, when we talk about all the three formulas that is being given by CBIC, if we compare the practical example, then as such, there is no difference between the refund amount against first formula and second formula. So it is understood that for the second formula, they just wanted to accommodate the formula with the provisions of the law. As such, there was no difference in the amount of refund. However, in the last formula, what happened? Earlier, the entire tax that is being paid on the goods or services that was getting deducted from your ITC. However, in the latest formula, they are reducing only the proportionate ITC that is being used for paying the tax of input, tax of the goods in comparison to the input and input service. So if you check the formula, in the latest formula, the refund amount gets increased by 49,230. So as of now, it is understood that the latest formula that is like applicable to all the cases in IDS or most viable formula.
हेलो ना ना जो बाहर से
Now, when the notification 14 was issued, there were certain
बीजू की नमाज नहीं करी?
ambiguity.
I have muted all. Komal, if you can mute and unmute yourself.
Hope I'm audible. Okay. So when notification 14 was issued by giving the latest formula, actually there were certain ambiguity that what will happen to the ongoing application that is being filed by the taxpayer, or if certain taxpayer is having the unutilized ITC of the previous period for which the relevant date is not yet expired as on the 5th of July 2022. So basically, to clarify that, government issued circular number 181 in which it was clarified that revised formula will apply to the refund application filed on or after 5/7/2022. So whatever the application that is being filed on this date or after this date, all the taxpayers are required to follow the latest formula, and all the application that is being filed already, that will be governed by the old provision. Now, what can be the maximum refund? So by applying the formula, whatever figure of refund that you are getting, you need to compare that figure with the other two figures. That is the period for which you are claiming the refund, what ECL balance you are having as on that date. Also, the date on which you are actually claiming the refund, what ITC balance you have. So list of the three will be eligible for the refund. Now, as per circular 125, there is a mechanism that is being given that while comparing list of the three, whatever final refund you are getting, how to debit that refund from your electronic credit ledger. So they said that whatever ITC you are having in the IGST ECL, first that will be utilized, and any refund that is being remained, that will get distributed between CGST and SGST. However, while distributing in CGST and SGST, if there is some shortfall, then you can use the other ECL. This is like if your refund amount is less than 1,000 rupees, then you cannot claim refund. So yes, key definitions. Before claiming the refund, you need to understand what are the terminology that are being prescribed in the GST law. First is input. Input means any goods other than capital goods that is being used or intended to be used by the supplier in the course of furtherance of the business, which means that includes raw material, component, packing material. However, it excludes the capital goods. Then input service. Input service means any service that is used or intended to be used by the supplier in the course of furtherance of business. It is very important to understand what is the definition of net ITC. Net ITC is the ITC availed on the input. Only input ITC will be eligible for the IDS refund during the relevant period. Then adjusted total turnover. In adjusted total turnover, you are supposed to take all the turnover excluding the turnover of the exempt supply, and zero rated supply of services. So if you are having zero rated supply, that will be separately governed by the another formula that is being given in 89.4. Over here, it is important to understand that at the time of introduction of the GST, that is 1st July 2017, that definition of net ITC was actually different. At that time, net ITC includes the ITC of input as well as input service. So we can say that at the introduction of GST, IDS refund was eligible on input as well as input service. However, this net ITC definition was changed and then input service was excluded from the definition. So right now we can claim the refund under IDS only pertaining to the inputs. So there were some misconceptions or ambiguity related to which the CBIC actually clarified by different circulars. First of all, they clarified three aspects through circular number 79. So basically, first aspect is about the net ITC. That what will be covered under net ITC. The term net ITC covers the ITC availed on all the inputs in the relevant period, irrespective of their rate of tax. Hence, input taxable at the same rate or lower rate as of the rate applicable on the outward supply. Then also it will get covered in the input. So, for example, your output tax rate is 5%, your input tax rate is 5% as well as 18%. So over here, the question is that whether the input pertaining to only 18% will get covered in the net ITC or it will include 5% ITC as well. So based on the clarification, it is very much clarified that as per this example, 3,000 will be considered for the input. Next is sometimes it happens that when departmental officers scrutinize your refund claim, they issue some query related to like what inputs you actually have and whether all of those inputs are gone through manufacturing process or not. To clarify that misconception, CBSE said that all the inputs that are being used in the course of furtherance of business will be covered as input for the calculation of the refund in the formula. Like ITC of the GST paid on input, including inward supply of the store spare packing material. It is important that many of the times department specifically talks about packing material, that whether packing material will be included in the refund formula for input or not. So yes, it is clarified in circular that packing material will be included in the input, and also you will get entry into the IDS only based on the fact that you are having the packing material taxable at the rate of 18%. So yes, not necessary that input must have gone through the manufacturing process. Third, recently there was some query issued by the department that you are having certain items and which seems to be capital goods and you should not be eligible for the refund. So basically in this circular, CBSE actually clarified that how to treat a particular item as a capital goods or input. It is clarified that if it is expensed in the P&L, it is booked in the profit and loss account, then it will be categorized as input. If it is capitalized in the books of account, then it will be considered as capital goods. So to categorize any of the item as a capital goods, you need to check the treatment that has been given in the books of account of the taxpayer. Next, IDS versus export with payment of tax. So basically in GST, there is a provision that if you are claiming a refund of IDS, then you should not have certain refunds claimed. Like if you are exporting your goods with payment of tax, then you cannot claim the IDS refund. So basically they wanted to say that you cannot take benefit of double benefit on the single turnover. In this example, for example, if a taxpayer is having some certain domestic supply as well as export, then for domestic supply it can go for the IDS refund, and if it is having the export turnover under LOT, then for that they can claim the refund under 89.4. So this is the entire example in which they can segregate their refund claims under Rule 89.4 as well as Rule 89.5. As we all know that while claiming the refund claim, there is a requirement of reconciling your ITC with the GSTR 2B. Right now it is GSTR 2B, earlier there was GSTR 2A. So basically, this is the entire cycle in which different notification and circulars they have issued with respect to the reconciliation of ITC with GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B. First of all, notification number 49 was issued. ITC on the invoices not in GSTR 2A allowed only up to the 20% of eligible ITC appearing in 2A. So as we all know that earlier there was like a limit of 20%, that maximum 20% of the eligible ITC that you're getting in your 2A that can be claimed in GSTR 3B. Then circular number 125 was issued. Refund allowed maximum up to the limit as per rule 36.4 for the invoices not in 2A, and also upload the copy of the invoices. So basically it says that you will get the refund only up to the amount that is matching as per 36.4, that is applying the 20% limit. And if you are claiming some refund for the invoices which are not reflecting in your 2A, then you need to upload the copy of the invoices. Then notification number 75 was issued where this limit was reduced to 10%. Circular number 135 was issued which says that refund will be available only for the invoices that is being uploaded in GSTR 1 by the supplier and reflected in the 2A of recipient. Further, this limit was reduced from 10% to 5%. And then finally, circular number 197 was issued where it is said that refund only will be eligible for the invoices that is being reflected in GSTR 2B. As we all know that in 2022 already 2B was introduced. So department officer was giving the refund only based on GSTR 2B and matching. Yes, this is 197 circular number which says that you will get the refund only on the basis of the reconciliation with GSTR 2B. So yeah, next clarification that is being issued by CBIC is related to the IDS applicability in case of merchant export. As per circular number 37, it is clarified that in case of notification 40 and 41 that is being issued by CBIC, that says that certain conditions need to be fulfilled, and if those conditions are fulfilled, then you are eligible to supply the goods at the rate of 0.1%. That is basically called as merchant export concept. However, this 0.1% is eligible subject to certain conditions that you need to follow. What are the conditions actually? Suppliers supply the goods to the recipient on the basis of tax invoice. Recipient exports said goods within a period of 90 days from the date of the tax invoice. So basically, whatever the tax invoice that is being issued, from that date within 90 days, the goods must have been exported out of India. GST of the supplier and tax invoice number issued by the supplier need to be mentioned in the shipping bill or bill of export. Recipient must be registered with the Export Promotion Council or Commodity Board as recognized by the Department of the Commerce. Recipient shall place the order on supplier for procuring the goods at the concessional rate, and copy shall be sent to the jurisdictional officer of the supplier. Recipient shall move goods directly to the port, inland container depot, airport, land customs station, or registered warehouse from which such goods are to be exported. In case of the supply where multiple suppliers are there, and recipient shall move goods to the registered warehouse, and after segregation, it shall be sent to the station from where the goods to be exported. Recipient shall endorse the receipt of goods on the tax invoice and also obtain the acknowledgement of the receipt of goods in the registered warehouse. Acknowledged document shall be provided to the supplier and his jurisdictional officer. Recipient shall send shipping bill and bill of export mentioning the detail of the supplier along with the EGM copy to the supplier and jurisdictional tax officer. So basically all of these conditions were given to just track the merchant export transaction, as it is taking the benefit of concessional rate which is being 0.1%. As we all know that recently the condition of 9610 has already been omitted. So earlier there was condition that whenever there is a transaction of merchant export, the export must have been done under LUT. However, right now, as due to the omission of 9610, said export can be done with payment of IGST. Next, circular number 135 was issued. 135 clarified that purchase at the high rate and supply of the same product at low rate at different point of time will not be covered under IDS. What does that mean actually? If you are a trader and you purchase the goods at the 18% rate, and due to some change in the HSN, that rate get converted into 12%, then you are not eligible for the IDS. You cannot say that your input is 18% and now your output is 12%. So I will take the refund of IDS. Then Circular 173 again was issued to clarify the position that is being taken in Circular number 135. What it says, Circular 175 clarified that restriction imposed in Circular 135 does not cover the cases where goods supplied at the lower rate due to the concessional rate prescribed in certain scenario. In GST, we can see that there is notification 45 that is being issued where you can supply at 5% rate in certain scenario, like you're supplying to regional cancer center, department and laboratory of central government, state government, research institution, public funded research institution. Then in this case, you can supply that product at 5%, even though in the normal scenario that product is taxable at the rate of 18%. So wherever there is some concessional rate notification already been prescribed by CBIC, in that case you are eligible for the refund. However, any scenario other than this, you are not eligible for refund. Next is the refund eligibility for the fabric job workers under IDS. Earlier, we have seen that there was notification 5 which restricted certain category of the goods where taxpayer cannot claim refund under IDS. Well, there are certain goods in the textile industry where actually they were not eligible to claim refund. So it says that Circular 48 clarified that fabric job processors, job workers are eligible for the refund of unutilized ITC under the inverted duty structure, even if the input fabrics are restricted by the notification number 5. Why? Because job worker is not actually supplying that goods. Job worker is actually working on the products that are being given in the notification 5. So it is basically a service, not goods. So that restriction does not apply over here. So yes, what are the documentation when you apply for the IDS refund that is being given in Circular number 125? There are certain statements that you need to upload. That is statement 1, 1A, Annexure B, that is talking about the statement of the ITC, that is purchase invoices. Self-certificate where refund amount is less than 2 lakh rupees. CA certificate where refund amount is more than 2 lakh rupees. Self-certified copies of the invoices that is being entered in Annexure B, but they are not reflecting in 2B. That is, for example, can be the reverse charge mechanism. Then declaration, that is undertaking in relation to section 16(2)(c), declaration under section under second and third proviso to section 54(3). Then sometimes it happens that departmental officer asks for the GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 copies, or 2A 2B. Yes, you need to upload the copy of GSTR 2B on the GST portal. There is one provision which says that CA certificate is not actually required. However, the listing that is being given under Circular 125, as per that listing, CA certificate is necessary. So this is the screenshot where you need to go on the GST portal and how to like select the category and go for the refund. Yes, next is refund process. So first of all, you need to file the refund application in RFD 01. So there is a time limit of 15 days. Within 15 days, either you get the deficiency memo or you get the RFD 02, that is the acknowledgement of your refund. If you have received the deficiency memo in RFD 03, so basically your earlier refund application got as good as rejected, and you need to file the fresh application. Then departmental officer is having the right to issue GST RFD 08 in case it is having some query or deficiency is found in your refund application. You need to file reply to that deficiency within 15 days, and overall 60 days period is there for the refund application. So you will get the order that is being issued in RFD 06 in total period of 60 days of the refund mechanism. So next is interest on delayed refund, that is section 56 of the CGST Act, that says that if you have not received a refund within the timeline, then you are eligible to get the interest at the rate of either 6% or 9%. So interest on the delayed refund, that is refund granted within 60 days, then there will be no interest. Refund not granted within 60 days, then in case of the regular refund application, you are eligible to get the interest at the rate of 6% from 61st day of the application till the date on which it is credited to your bank. However, there can be certain scenario where you are getting some order from the appellate authority or appellate tribunal which says that yes, you are eligible for the refund. In that case, it gives you another benefit of interest rate that is being prescribed as 9%. So basically, there are two scenario. First, you will get the 6% refund, or if it is not given within the prescribed time limit, then you are even eligible for the 9% refund. So from 61st day of the original application till the date of refund credit, or 60 days from the fresh application. If that within that period you get the refund, then the interest rate will be 6%. However, there is order being issued by the appellate authority and still you have not received a refund within 60 days of that order, then you will get the 9% refund from the 61st day till the date of refund credit, which is being done actually in your bank account. Next is the recredit and withdrawal of the refund. Recredit of rejected refund. So once your refund is rejected, how to reclaim your ITC which is being debited at the time of claiming the refund. Rejection order passed in RFD 06, amount debited from electronic credit ledger at the time of filing RFD 01. Recredit will be done by the proper officer by issuing the form that is being PMT 03. Recredit of erroneous refund. There can be certain instances where actually erroneous refund has been credited to your bank account. In that case, what you need to actually do is you need to file DRC 03 along with the interest and penalty through cash ledger. So basically, payment of erroneous refund need to be done in cash, and whatever debit entry that is being done already, that will recredit in your electronic credit ledger through PMT 03A. Yes, withdrawal of refund application filed. So yes, there is one option available. Once you have filed a refund application and your mind gets changed and you want to withdraw your refund application, that can be done. However, any action that is being taken by the proper officer, so before that you can withdraw. You should not have received your RFD 04, RFD 06, RFD 07 or RFD 08. So before that, you can, yes, withdraw your application. How to withdraw? This is the screenshot. Where to go, how to withdraw. Now moving forward to the restricted category of the goods for the IDS refund. So basically, there are certain goods which are actually till now not eligible for the IDS refund. For this, certain notification were issued by the CBIC, and this is the list of all the products which are not eligible for IDS refund till date. Notification 9 was issued, which says that in case of these many products, you are not eligible for IDS refund with effect from 18 July 2022. Secondly, there are other products for which different notifications were issued and effective date was given. From that date, you are not eligible to claim the refund. Yes, earlier we talked about the textile products in which certain restrictions were imposed earlier, and restriction was given that IDS refund cannot be claimed. However, that restriction was again withdrawn and notification number 20 was issued. So basically from 1st of August 2018, that restriction was withdrawn, and again the textile taxpayers were eligible to claim the refund under inverted duty structure. Next, talking about the edible oil industry, notification 5, that was the original notification issued to restrict the goods under IDS. Amendment notification was issued, that is notification 9, in which the edible oil was restricted, effective from 18 July 2022. For this, Circular 181 was issued that explained the applicability of the restriction. It says that this restriction will apply to all the refund application that is being filed on or after 18/7/2022. So basically from 18/7/2022, you cannot actually claim for the refund under refund of the in the edible oil industry under IDS. Issues faced by the edible oil industry, that is notification number 9, restrict the refund of unutilized ITC under IDS for the edible oil and coal, that is with effect from 18/7/2022. Circular 181 clarifies that restriction applies to all the refund application filed after this date, even for the past period. What does that mean? That is the what it says past period. There is a refund period for which the period of 2 years, that is the 2 year from the relevant date, is not yet expired on 18/7/2022. So as per the clarification given in 181, even for that period also, taxpayer is not eligible for the refund. This effectively leads to the retrospective denial of the refund, causing major litigation and financial stress in the edible oil sector. So even if the ITC is accumulated before 18/7/2022, refund is denied even if the application filed after 18/7/2022. So this was the much talked about sector in which certain High Court rulings were also there. So we will see to it, that is litigation and court rulings. So basically there are so many judgments in which it was said that actually section 54 gives the power, 54(3)(2) gives the power to the taxpayers to claim the refund only based on the one condition, that if the input rate is higher than the rate of tax applicable on input supply. So on the basis of only this one condition, you are eligible for the refund. However, introducing new notification and giving the clarification through circular, such refund cannot be restricted if the relevant period is not expired. So these are the main court rulings in which it is said that it is ultra vires. Here there are certain other important rulings that is being related to the IDS, which says that first is talking about TBL, that is talking about that ITC on input service. It means it was saying that the refund under IDS should be eligible in case of input service as well. However, it was against the assessee. It was said that no, 54(3)(2) is genuine provision where government can actually impose the certain restrictions in which it may be like you cannot claim the refund of input service. So all of this judgment, that is certain judgment are against the assessee and certain judgment are in favor of assessee. Yes, this is landmark judgment, that is of the VKC footstep. This talk about taxpayer was actually having a concern that refund under IDS should be eligible in case of the ITC of the input service. So they basically went to the Gujarat High Court and then they asked for the refund of the input service. So basically Gujarat High Court said that yes, you can claim the refund of input service. However, department went to the Supreme Court and Supreme Court says that 54(3)(2) says that if your input rate is higher, then only you will get the refund. So input, in this case, if you are having the input service, then you are not eligible for the refund. Over here, the contention of taxpayer was that section 54(3) allows for the refund of any unutilized input tax credit. So 54(3) specifically uses the word refund of any unutilized ITC, which includes input service and capital goods. In the landmark judgment of VKC footstep, Supreme Court set aside the Gujarat High Court decision and denied the refund of accumulated ITC of input service, as amendment by change in formula in Rule 89.5 would be ultra vires to section 54(3)(2). It says that in 89.5, if we get the refund of input service, then it will get ultra vires to the provision which are being prescribed under the Act, which says that your input rate should be higher. So yes, if your inward supply is goods and your output supply is goods or service, in those scenario you can get the refund. However, your input service is input supply is related to service and you are supplying goods or services. In that case, you are not eligible for the IDS refund. Next, going forward, industry analysis. First, we will talk about the footwear industry. What actually happened in footwear industry? Before 56 GST Council meeting, there were certain different rate and amendments being carried out. And as you all aware that there are two rate only, 5% and 18%. So basically 12% rate was abolished and instead it was converted to the 5% rate. Actually, it says that wherever the sale value is up to 1000 per pair, then 5% rate will be applicable. Rather, sale value is up to 2500 per pair, then 5% rate will be applicable. And if the value of per pair is more than 2500 per value, then 18% rate is applicable. Originally, this 1000 limit was 500 actually, and notification number 18 was introduced and it is amended to 1000. Originally, footwear having sale value 1000 was taxed at 5%. However, notification number 21, it is transferred to the tax bracket of 12% with effect from 1st of January 2022. While rate change to 12% reduced reduce the tax inversion. However, it increased the cost of the product, impacting the lower and middle class consumer. So what happened when the tax rate was actually 12%, output tax was actually high, and however the inversion was less. But what happened actually after the 56 GST Council meeting, your rate of output tax is 5%. So in that case, you will be paying your tax less and your inversion will be high. So this is the basic example that what happened actually before GST 2.0 and what happened actually after GST 2.0. So basically before GST 2.0, there was a less inversion, and after that inversion increased. So this is the entire calculation of the IDS refund, that how you can actually claim your refund by applying the formula which is being given under Rule 89.5.
You have to unmute yourself, Komal.
So yes, we will talk about the textile industry. In textile industry, there were two rates before the 56 GST Council meeting, that is 5% and 12%. However, after 56 GST Council meeting, the rates are changed, that is 5% and 18%. Just like footwear industry, if your price is up to 2,500, then 5% rate will be applicable, and if it is more than 2,500, then 18% rate will be applicable. The textile industry has largely remained unchanged in the terms of the output GST rate since the introduction of GST up to the rate rationalization discussed in 56 GST Council meeting. However, there was one instance where actually government wanted to change the rate, but due to the support that is being not received from the industry, they could not change the GST rate. So the government has proposed to implement a uniform GST rate of 12% on the textile and garment with effect from 1/1/2022 to address the certain issue. So basically what was happening, actually there was an inversion. So government actually wanted to categorize all the product into 12% GST rate. However, they did not receive actual the support from the industry and could not do the same. This proposal was withdrawn at the last moment during 46 GST Council meeting, owing to the strong opposition from various state and industry stakeholders. So yes, these are all the HSN which are relevant for the textile industry. So basically what happened in case of the man-made fiber, the rates were changed in the 56 GST Council meeting. So man-made fiber and man-made yarns that were taxable at the different rate before this council meeting, and they were categorized as 5% GST rate after 56 GST Council meeting. So what exactly happened? Change in the GST rate of man-made fiber and yarn eradicated the inversion in the textile sector. Resolution of inverted duty. The inverted duty structure was effectively resolved by slashing the GST rate on man-made fiber and yarn to 5%. Supply chain alignment. This rate reduction aligned core input cost directly with the 5% output rate for mass market apparel priced up to 2,500. Creation of an ITC offset premium garment priced up above 2,500 was shifted to 18% slab, providing a necessary mechanism for manufacturer to absorb the residual input tax credit. So basically, what does that mean? Categorizing a product which is valued at more than 2,500 and keeping the rate of 18%. So whatever ITC a textile taxpayer is having, that will get absorbed in paying the tax of outward supply at 18%. Persistent minor inversion. A slight structural inversion remains because essential input like processing chemical, plastic packaging material are still taxed at 18%. So whatever being done by the CBIC or government, still there is some inversion that is being there in the textile industry. So it is not totally solved situation. Ongoing credit accumulation. This residual 18% tax continues to cause minor credit accumulation for the manufacturers whose primary sale falls under the 5% bracket. So yes, this is the example. If you can see, color dye and packing material, still they are taxable at the 18% rate. And if there is some textile taxpayer which is having all the products categorized or valued at the rate of less than 2500, then he will be paying the tax at the rate of 5%. So in that case, there will be some inversion. So here, yes, over here we can see that earlier the inversion was maximum refund that can be claimed was around 5913, and it got to 17,507. So basically, due to rate change from 12% to 5% on the outward supply, inversion got higher, and due to the input rate change of the man-made fiber, the inversion situation was actually tackled. However, it is not completely solved position. Still, we are getting some inversion in the textile industry, and still refund is there. Fertilizer sector. So in fertilizer sector, after this 56 GST Council meeting, the rates are changed. So in this chapters, the earlier rates were 12% and 18%, and now it has been categorized as 5% rate. So yes, in this example, if you see, there will be no inversion as all the input and output rates are same. So basically, you are eventually will not get any inversion and refund. EV sector, as we all know, EV sector, the EV is taxable at EV motor vehicle is taxable at 5% rate. However, to manufacture that product, actually the inputs which is being procured by a taxpayer are actually taxable at the rate of 18%. So yes, 28% rate has been changed to 18% after this 56 GST Council meeting. So still there will be inversion, and IDS will be applicable in the EV sector as well. Next is the pharma industry. So earlier there were already certain products in the pharma industry which were classified into 5% rate. However, after this council meeting, certain products which were earlier taxable at the rate of 12%, that will get shifted to the 5% tax bracket. So basically in the pharma sector, what happens, there are APIs. So in case of active pharmaceutical ingredient that is being used to manufacture medicines, that are still taxable at the rate of 18%. So due to that, there is some inversion in the pharma industry, and still IDS refund mechanism is applicable in pharma industry right now as well. Yes, input used in the pharma industry, that is active pharmaceutical ingredients, serve as the fundamental building block for the pharmaceutical industry, providing the essential therapeutic component for all the medication. Under GST framework, this critical raw material constitute are classified under Chapter 29 and attract the standard rate of 18%. As established in the previous slide, the finished formulation are taxed at just 5%. This lower output rate is driven by the government clear intention to keep the life-saving medicine affordable and shield at the end consumer from the heavy tax burden. Even though government wants to save the pharma industry by keeping the rate of 5%, but the input that are coming, that is already taxable at the rate of 18%. So basically taxpayer need to claim for the IDS refund. Healthcare sector, yes, medical equipment and diagnostic kit. So the reduction in the GST rate, the reduction in the GST rate on the medical equipment and diagnostic kit from 12% to 5% under GST 2.0 has significantly improved the affordability and made such product more cost efficient for the end consumer. This policy shift aligns with the broader objective of promoting the accessible healthcare by reducing the tax burden on essential medical supplies and devices, thereby supporting the overall healthcare ecosystem. However, this rate reduction has simultaneously accentuated the inverted duty structure, as the majority of the key inputs such as electronic component, chemical, plastic, steel, aluminum parts continue to attract GST rate of 18%. This mismatch between the higher input tax and lower output supply result in accumulation of the accumulation of the ITC, leading to working capital blockage and increased dependence on the refund mechanism. So over here, you can see what are the HSN, and it is taxable at the rate of 5%. However, the input is coming on the rate of 18%. So basically, it will create the inversion. You need to file the refund under IDS. Renewable energy industry. That is, yes, for the renewable energy industry, the rate applicable in case of solar panel, that is effectively 8.9%. However, whatever input that are different inputs you need to use for the installation of the solar product, that is inputs are taxable at the rate of 18%. So basically, yes, IDS is applicable in renewable energy sector as well. So yes, earlier we talked about that few hours back, there are certain developments that is being carried out on GST portal related to IDS, like how to file IDS application. That is, there are some changes. So first of all, offline utility has been introduced on GST portal. Earlier, as you are aware that we need to manually fill up the Annexure B in Excel file and just create the PDF and upload the same on the GST portal. However, now the offline utility has been introduced and there are certain validation that is being given in the utility that you need to check on, and then only you can upload the utility and get your refund calculation. So there are three tables on the GST portal. First of all, there is a table 1. So earlier, whatever we were calculating, things are same. However, in case of net ITC, you can see that there is some comment written over here is that edit the net ITC to exclude the ITC availed on input service and capital goods. So basically what to be done, whenever you are filing your Annexure B offline utility, you just need to put all the list of the ITC that is claimed in GSTR 3B, which will include the ITC of input service and capital goods. However, as you are aware that refund is not eligible on the input service and capital goods. So basically you need to edit this field and you just need to fill the final figure of the input on which you are actually eligible for the refund under IDS. So yes, net ITC will be auto-populated from the offline utility of Annexure B, and taxpayer can edit the net ITC by excluding the ITC of input service and capital goods. Next, there is a table number 2. What happens in whatever like ITC you have put in net ITC column, on the basis of that, system will calculate automatically the eligible amount of the refund. Right? These are the non-editable fields. Next is table number 3. So what happens? You all must be aware that as per circular number 125, the mechanism is given to utilize the balances of the ECL to debit the entry of refund. So over here, what GST portal automatically doing is, whatever ITC you are having in the iGST ECL, that will first utilized for the refund. Then the balance available, that system will automatically divide that balance in CGST and SGST. So this entire computation will be done by the system automatically. Eligible refund amount is non-editable field. So yes, it is very important. Over here, the eligible refund amount, that is the 3 field that is being given. These are non-editable field. So if taxpayer want to claim the refund less than what is eligible refund, then how to claim? So yes, as of now, it is not clarified, but yes, we can do one thing, that is we need to reduce your net ITC amount, which is being given in table number 1. So if net ITC amount is reduced, then your refund amount will automatically get reduced, and according to that, you will need to check manually that what sort of or what extent of refund you actually want to claim. So yes, GST portal automatically distribute the refund amount in ICS based on the mechanism that is being given in circular number 125. This is the offline utility of Annexure B, in which there are certain fields and validation that is being given. So the list of ITC that you are putting in the Annexure B offline utility, based on that, system will calculate or utility will calculate the total ITC as per the invoices mentioned in the utility 1. Then you need to manually put the reversal figure and reversal that is being reported in 4B1 and 4B2. And system will calculate the net ITC that is after reversal. There are certain validation that we have identified. Maximum 10,000 rows will be allowed in the Annexure B. Earlier, there was no specific field for the block credit under 17.5, but yes, additional field is given in this utility. Bifurcation of eligible and ineligible ITC in different column you need to put. Specification of the to be written period. Yes, earlier in Annexure B, there was no column of to be written period, but yes, in this case, you need to put the to be written period. Again, in case of import of goods, the GST utility is asking for the to be period. So what happens actually? Earlier, taxpayers were claiming the refund based on the bill of entry copy, even though ITC is not reflected in your GSTR 2B. But this, due to this validation, it happens that you need to have that bill of entry ITC in your GSTR 2B. Then only you will be eligible to get the refund claim pertaining to that import ITC. And yes, supplier name need to be given in the case of import as well. There are certain open issues and interpretational challenges under IDS. So what happens, there are certain non-compliances by the taxpayer. For example, the turnover is mismatch in GSTR 1 or GSTR 3B. So it is important to understand that which turnover we need to actually consider while claiming the refund application. So it is open issue. Actually, it depends upon case to case basis that how department is actually taking that situation. If you consider the turnover as per GSTR 1 or turnover as per GSTR 3B, obviously your refund application or your refund amount will change. So it will be like you need to check this particular fact on case to case basis while applying the refund application to or scrutinizing your refund application by the departmental officer. Second issue is that as per the recent or as per the latest formula that is given in 89.5, you need to take the figure of the ITC of input and input service. So basically, as we earlier discussed, that your ITC must be matched with your GSTR 2B. Yes, we understood that net ITC that we need to take, it should be matched with your 2B figure, right? But when you are putting figure in denominator that is related to the ITC of input and input service, then whether the ITC figure which is matched with 2B need to be mentioned over there, or the entire ITC that is being claimed in 3B related to input and input service. So you can see in this slide that if you take the only match credit, then refund amount will be different. And if you're taking the entire ITC, then the refund amount will be changed. So this open issue also depend on the case to case basis and individual refund application. Going forward, yes, posers. Whether refund under IDS can be claimed in cases where the principal input and output goods are same and the accumulation of ITC arises solely on account of ancillary inputs such as packing material, consumable, and similar inward supply. So yes, we discussed in the circular that it is specifically clarified that even if there is ITC of stores or packing material and your input output product is same, then also there will be inversion and you can claim the refund under IDS. Whether IDS refund can be claimed by the recipient if the supplier charges the higher rate erroneously instead of lower rate applicable. So what it says, actually the product is applicable at the rate of 5% and some error, due to some error, supplier has actually charged 18% rate. So you paid 18% rate to your supplier and actually that product is taxable at the rate of 5%. So can you claim the refund? So yes, in this scenario, if we talk about the 54.3 clause 2, this particular situation get covered over there. Whether IDS refund is available where goods are purchased at 18% pre-rate rationalization and sold at the rate of 5% post-rate rationalization. No, it cannot be done. Refund will not be eligible. So yes, domestic supply of goods at the rate of 5%, that is 5 lakh. Export of the same goods under LUT, that is 7 lakh, and input are taxed at 18%. What will be the turnover of inverted rated supply for the refund calculation? So yes, earlier we discussed that if there are two scenarios where you are having domestic supply as well as export turnover under LUT, then you need to apply 89.4 as well as 89.5. So for domestic supply, you will claim your refund under IDS, that is as per rule 89.5, and for LUT you need to apply for the refund under rule 89.4 of CGST rules. So over here the turnover of inverted rated supply will be 5 lakh rupees. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Komal. I think we have questions in the chat. Question from Aman Rathi. Can we claim the refund under inverted duty if goods are same and purchases were made at the higher rate and sale was made at lower rate due to change in rate midway of purchase and sales?
So yes, we talked about one circular. Over there, it is clarified that you are not eligible for the IDS refund if your product is same and the rate is just changed on that product.
Okay, we have another question from Nirmal Patel. We have take benefit of advance authorization license. In that case, how can we apply refund under inverted duty structure?
So we have take benefit of advance authorization license. In that case, how we can apply for the refund under inverted duty structure? So yes, in case of advance authorization, you have not paid GST on your imports, right? There would not be any IGST import. So basically now the rule 9610 is entirely omitted. So basically this condition is not applicable anymore now. You are eligible for inverted duty structure if at all there is some inversion.
I think Komal, whether 9610 applicable or not applicable or advance authorization, getting into play or not, but for the purpose of getting refund in IDS, we just need to fulfill the formula as per, the condition as per section 54 that my inputs are at higher rate and output is at lower rate, and then apply the formula. There are no further condition attached to claiming the refund. So I think in case of advance authorization also we can claim the refund. The thing is that we need to follow the condition and formula. That's it.
Yes.
The next question from Prem Anchalia. If we have purchased goods before 21st September 2025 at 12% and sold later at 5% after rate change, can we claim refund in trading entity?
So this is the same question, actually first question that is being already asked by Aman Rathi, I guess, and I have answered to that.
Okay.
Yes, presentation will be shared.
Okay. Circular 135 ultra vires of section 54, any case law in that reference?
Yes, there are certain case laws that is being already I've shown in the presentation. So the applicable case law will be shared to you. You just put your email ID over here. We will share the same to you.
Next question from Surbhi. Can we apply refund for multiple months? Refund calculation to be done on monthly net ITC turnover, or calculation is to be done on total net ITC or turnover for the relevant periods. Also, in case of fiscal year 25-26 rate rationalization cases, can we apply refund basis net ITC for the prior period, while the inverted structure turnover stated only after 22 September 2025, that is purchase of inputs in prior 22 September 2025, sell is post 22nd September 2025.
So can we apply refund of the multiple months? Yes, we talked about the bunching of the months. So circular is clarificatory, which says that you can just club your months, or if it all like months are pertaining to the different financial year, you can just club and apply for the refund.
Okay, and one more question from Amit Mehta. Whether ITC for GST paid on RCM services is to be included in ITC of input services under Rule 89.5 formula under
Yes, so
Annex B.
Yes, so basically, whatever you are paying under the reverse charge mechanism, that is categorized as input service. So accordingly, you are paying as per notification 13. That is for the services. So it will be categorized as input service, and you will not be like eligible to claim the refund specifically against the input service. But you need to apply this amount of input service in the denominator.
All right. Any other question from anybody? All right. Thank you so much, Komal, for the insightful session.
Excuse me.
And thanks to the wonderful audience for the question. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.